Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are going to talk about media. Do you know what media is? Take a second to think about that. Think about where you've seen it or where you've heard it or even what it does. So I'd like to give you a definition of media. Media is the name that we give to many forms of communication that send or carry messages. For example, there are things like TV, radio, internet, magazines, and even newspapers that give us all kinds of information. The first thing that we're going to talk about is a magazine. A magazine is a printed collection of writings that is published for a certain number of times in a year. Many of the magazines are published monthly or even weekly. There are so many magazines that you could even think about, like Time, there's also Newsweek, and even Jet Magazine. Magazines typically contain articles or pictures and letters that talk about specific topics or a certain paper. The next thing that I'd like to talk to you about is a newspaper. Who's ever seen a newspaper before? Newspapers can be found everywhere. In Kansas City, there's the Call, there's also the Washington Post, and even the Kansas City Star. Newspapers are really important. Newspapers are papers that are printed and sold usually every day or weekly and contain a lot of information about recent events, articles, opinions, and even features in advertising. So newspapers are really important because they offer so much to the community. Another really cool one is called the radio. Many of you listen to the radio every single day. There's many stations like Hot 103 Jams and even 95.7 The Vibe. The radio is not only good for music, but it's good for a lot of things. So radio is a way of sending sounds or other information through the air. The information is carried by invisible radio waves. So these are things that we don't even see. And radio waves are used for broadcasting or sending out radio and television programs. Many of the ones that I mentioned to you are things like Hot 103 Jams or KPRS, Magic 107.3, KCUR, and even 95.7 The Vibe. Another really important type of media is the television. Many people watch televisions every day, or a lot of times people watch TV on the weekends. So TV is really cool. And it's not just good for cartoons, but TV sends us many different forms of communication. Television or TV is a system for sending moving pictures and sound from one place to another. It's one of the most important and most popular forms of communication because many people take part in it. TV programs provide news, information, and entertainment to people all over the world. Some really good examples of news stations or television channels that you may know of include MSNBC, Fox News, MTV, BET, Disney, and even Nickelodeon. So when you watch all of those cartoons or any of the news, you're getting information that helps you learn more about what's going on. Another really important aspect of media is called social media. Many times people use social media to communicate. Social media includes things like Facebook or TikTok, YouTube. There's even Instagram and Snapchat. All of those different ways all of those different platforms are ways in which we are able to communicate with one another. We're able to share our opinion or share something in the news that we're reading about or something that we're interested or strongly passionate about. So social media refers to the websites and apps that allow people to interact with others or to create and share content. So it's as simple as you liking a status that someone put on Facebook, or your parents liking some kind of status, or even sharing some kind of information that they've seen or heard on their social media page. Next, let's talk a little bit about advertising. Advertising is really important. So when we advertise, we are simply referring to anything that draws our attention towards something, and it's usually displayed in many ways. People advertise to inform, they advertise to persuade, they advertise to change behavior, and to put forward a point of view. In many cases, people advertise on the internet, people advertise on their social media. A good example is including like YouTube. So if you've ever watched YouTube before, I'm sure you've noticed in the middle of your videos that you're looking at, there's these ads that pop up. They may range for like 10 to 20 seconds. Those are good examples of trying to get you to do something. So when people put out advertisements, they're basically trying to get to inform you about something, persuade you to do something, or they may want you to change your behavior or put forward some kind of point of view. Let's take a second to look at all of these different ways in which people advertise things to us. The first way is to inform. Let's look at this ad here. If we look closely at it, it tells us a lot about Kansas City Public Schools and what is going on and how Kansas City Public Schools are doing well. So to inform means to give you information about something. As you can see in the picture, there are graduates there, and it's telling us about the experiences that students typically have in Kansas City Public Schools. Let's talk about persuade. So to persuade someone means that you are trying to get them to do something. So if you look at the two pictures that are here, the first one is about Price Chopper. And I noticed that there are different prices for different foods. So if companies are putting out ads for pricing, that may try to get us to persuade us to maybe shop there or buy our food from there. The next ad talks about the 2020 census. So in that ad, that's basically trying to get us to fill out the census and be counted. The next one is to talk about changing behavior. So if you look here, there seems to be a picture of a plane, but that's not really a plane on there too. It's a plane that's made out of like a can. So, and then if you look at the bottom, there's a picture of a recycling bin. If you notice, it's really important that we try to recycle. So if you look at the caption, it says, now you know what your empty beverage containers can become. So this is trying to get us to try and recycle more, because this is what will happen, is that we can ultimately create other things because of our recycling habits. So yes, we want to change our behavior. And then the last thing here is to put forward a point of view. So if you look at this particular picture, you notice that there's a dog and he has on a mask, and the very top of the ad says foster homes needed. The person that created this ad wants us to foster all kinds of other animals. We know that there are several animals all across the streets that need homes. So it's important that we take the time to foster animals to get them off the streets and into loving homes. Now, let's play a game. Can you guess what these different forms of media are trying to do? Let's go ahead and get started. Let's look at this advertisement right here. As you can see, this is the title of it, says Entitled Learning, Don't Miss a Thing. What do you think that this one is trying to get us to do? Are you still thinking about it? Hopefully you were able to see that this particular advertisement is trying to persuade us to do something. It literally tells us don't miss a thing, and it has some kind of horn at the top, so it's giving us some kind of announcement, persuading us to not miss out. So essentially there's going to be so much information that's coming out, we don't want to miss out on it. So Entitled Learning wants us to be able to join along and see what they're trying to promote. This one, let's see what this one says for us. So this one has a heading called Black History Month, and it says the 2021 Sankofa Oratory Contest. What do you think that this particular ad is trying to do for us? Is it trying to persuade us, or inform us about something, or change our perspective, or even put forward a point of view? Hopefully you said that this one is trying to inform us. This one gives a specific date, and it tells us some various things that are able to help us know that there's a lot of information being put forward, and that there are things that we can do in order to be entered into the Sankofa Oratory Contest. Let's look at this one. This one says, Your Voice Matters. And there's a picture of a girl kind of in front of the background, and it's a lot of red, white, and blue. This one came out around the time of the election. So I would say that this particular one is trying to get us to do something, to act. So it's persuading us to do something like vote or have a voice in many of the matters that are going on. I wonder what this one is trying to tell us. Let's look at it. It says middle school virtual fair, or learn about the different middle school options available. It gives us a specific date, and it gives us a time, and it tells us where to register. So I would say that this particular one is trying to inform us about something. It's letting us know that there's going to be some kind of event that's taking place, and that it has a specific date, and that we want you there, or they want you there. Last but not least, let's look at this particular one. I'm sure you've seen this one everywhere. It says click it or ticket, and there's a picture with a person who's sitting down and they have their seatbelt on. I would say that this one is trying to persuade us to do something. It's trying to persuade us to put on our seatbelt when we drive. The reason for that is if we don't put on our seatbelt, what could possibly happen? We might get into an accident, we might hurt someone, or we could even be hurt. So this is a campaign that lets us know that we need to put on our seatbelt, or the police who come around may potentially give us a ticket. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you learned so much about the different types of media. I look forward to seeing you next week. Until next time.